Hello everyone, and today we're going to talk about this, my Alienware 15R2 that I purchased used from CeX back in February of 2019. So I've had this machine about 16 months and it cost me £610. Now this is a CeX Grade B laptop. I had never purchased a laptop from CeX before, so this was my first experience buying from them, and it's also my first experience buying a used Alienware. So in this video I want to talk about the condition of this machine when I first got it, any problems I had when I first got it, and any problems I've had since over the last 16 months. And I'll also feedback on whether I think it's a good idea to buy a used Alienware now that I've had the experience of doing this myself. So first of all, let's talk about the condition of this machine. Now, when I ordered this, I was a little bit apprehensive. CeX don't actually put pictures up of the individual machines, just a generic image. But when it arrived, my first impressions were very good. There's no significant dents or knocks, just a few very minor scratches that are barely visible. And laptops often pick up scuffs around the edges and on the corners, but this machine is in excellent condition. Also, the keyboard and trackpad were in great condition, and importantly, there were no dead pixels at all on the screen. So first of all, I'm going to give CeX credit where credit's due. The machine is a very clean, tidy example of this machine. And importantly, this machine matched the description on the CeX website. It was listed as having a GTX 980M, which it does have. And I was really pleased to see that this machine actually has the 8GB variant of the GTX 980 instead of the 4GB variant. I also checked to make sure that it was fitted with the correct i7-6700HQ processor along with 16GB of RAM as per the CeX description. So again, it all checked out at this stage. I was pleased with my purchase. CeX had accurately described the machine and it was in great condition. But sadly, we need to talk about the problems I had with this machine when I first purchased it. The first thing I noticed was that there's a screw missing from the trapdoor underneath the machine. So I did try to replace this screw, but the thread has been stripped, so there was no chance of actually replacing it. Instead, I've just used a bit of electrical tape just to keep this door shut. It's not a big deal, and it probably still falls in line with their Grade B rating. I mean, it's not Grade A after all. But a missing screw was only a minor issue compared to the main problem I had with this machine when I first got it. And that main problem is that when I switched it on and left it sitting for a few minutes, it sounded like this. It sounded more like a plane taxiing to take off than a laptop, and after some research I found a setting in the BIOS called fan performance mode that had been enabled. This basically runs the fans flat out all the time, but if I disabled this setting the machine would then run way too hot. So at this stage I had a decision to make, either send it back to CeX for a refund or try and fix it myself. If CeX had had another machine of a similar spec in stock I probably would have sent it back to them, but they didn't have anything to replace it. So I decided to try and strip this down and replace the thermal paste myself in the hope that it would cure my overheating issues. And this is where I've got my first criticism of the design of this machine. To get to the thermal paste you literally have to strip the machine right down to the motherboard, which is a lot of work. I've also got a Lenovo T440p that I use when I need something smaller than the Alienware. Replacing the thermal paste on that is a 5-minute job. But the Alienware is an absolutely awful design from a maintenance perspective. But I'm glad I made the effort because once I stripped it down I found this. The first fan assembly I removed was completely clogged with dirt. It was absolutely disgusting, and this demonstrates that CeX hadn't performed any maintenance on this machine themselves other than reinstalling Windows. The second fan assembly was even worse. No wonder this machine was overheating. Even with the fans running flat out, very little hot air was able to escape the machine, effectively rendering the cooling system redundant. And when I did eventually get to the thermal paste, it was clear that this probably hadn't been replaced throughout the machine's entire lifetime. It was a dried out mess and desperately needed replacing. But thankfully, once I'd replaced the thermal paste and reassembled the machine, the temperatures were far lower, and when not gaming, this machine now runs almost silently. So with that said, and having to have done far more work than I'd anticipated on this machine, you're probably thinking that if asked now, I'd definitely say don't buy used Alienware, but that's not the case. Because after cleaning this machine out and replacing the thermal paste, it's performed absolutely flawlessly for the past 16 months and has handled everything I've thrown at it. Not only can it still handle all modern games at 1080p, I've also edited this video on it and used it daily as a work machine. And for just over £600, I consider that to be a good value purchase. But with that said, I'd be reluctant to buy used Alienware without some sort of guarantee. I purchased from CeX because they offer a 2-year guarantee, so I could have sent this machine back if I decided that trying to replace the thermal paste myself was too much hassle. The second key point is that I'm quite technical and I'm comfortable stripping down a laptop and replacing the thermal paste myself. But if you're not, then this laptop probably isn't for you. And if you do decide to go ahead and buy a second-hand laptop, then it's probably worth checking out how hard it is to clean out the fans and replace the thermal paste before you take the plunge. So to conclude, should you buy a used Alienware laptop? I'd say that if you can find the right deal like I did and you're comfortable performing some maintenance tasks, then go for it. I hope this has helped some of you, and if it has, please hit the thumbs up button. And if you've got a used Alienware, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.